Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to WCS Summer. We're going to be moving into our next match, which will be Harstem versus SpeCial. I am joined here by the illustrious Rotterdam. How you doing, man?
Still a little bit recovering from my son getting an 0-3 bopping from that little French cute kid. But no, it wasn't really the series I hoped for, but I am still very impressed with the way that Clem handled that. Clem, even though he's such a young player, he's handling all of this stuff like a veteran, man. He's like, I know what I'm going up against. Big stage, small stage, it doesn't matter. I know how to beat him online. I'm going to beat him offline as well. So I'm definitely impressed with the way that Clem played that. Now we're getting ready for hopefully a PvT that's going to show us a little more variety and it's going to be a little more back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of going from the youngsters who are a little bit newer to the scene to now going to some serious veterans. SpeCial been around since Brood War days. Harstem been around since the early Starcraft 2 days.
Warcraft 3 days, man.
Warcraft 3? Yeah, okay, I'm so sorry, Roddy.
He wasn't very good in Warcraft, that's okay. He'll forgive me for that one. He knows it's true.
Well, it looks like we're getting ready to hop into our first game here with some more Protoss versus Terran action. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. As we start down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, top of the blue Terran player, he is a SpeCial.
Of course, a finalist of WCS Spring, and he would love to repeat that success all over again, but it's going to be very tough. He's got a tough bracket ahead of him. In the left up side, looking at the main base of the man that lost in group stage still, but battled his way through that knockout bracket. He's still alive. He's going strong. It is Harstem.
Now, Roddy, I'm so happy to see Harstem at this point because, like you said, he battled through a really grueling knockout bracket. But when I saw the kind of results he was getting in the earlier stages, the group stages, I was a little bit worried because I was thinking, you know, is this going to be like that one of that Harstem showings that just you want him to do well, but he's just not quite there. But he is definitely pulling this back. This, I think, would solidify it, though.
Yeah.
The win over Lambo, really, really solid. If you can win over SpeCial, I feel like Harstem, I think you can go far this tournament.
No, absolutely. I mean, obviously the knockout bracket, or the elimination bracket rather, is going to be very stacked. The winner of this series will go up against Mana, and if they would somehow win that series as well, I mean, one of these nerds is going to do it. They'll go up against the winner of Seoul Nerd Show or Raynor. So that could very well be Raynor, because we know that Raynor never really loses to anybody in WCS other than Serral. So we're not going to get too ahead of ourselves, but I'm with you. I mean, Harstem started in knockout bracket round 3, guys. He went down 0-1 against Chaos. He said it on the stage. He's like, well, I guess this is it, right? I was like, well, that's really disappointing. I'm out. He's like, okay, I'm not out yet. Then he went down 0-1 against Skillers in the next round. He's like, well, I've been here before, but this is kind of bad. But he once again turned it around. It is really good to see him just staying calm and composed, even though he had his tournament life on the line multiple times. I mean, that 3-0 victory earlier today over Lambo.
Yeah.
I would have predicted a lot of results, but not that one, Ravi.
That one was that was brutal as well. Lambo really was trying to throw the kitchen sink at him with a lot of different kind of things, but Harstem kept deflecting them left and right. So we're going to see over here, SpeCial trying to lob himself over the pylon. Doesn't quite work out, so he's going to have to back up as the Adept will be popping out. And we do see that Twilight Council coming up behind this for Harstem.
That Reaper needs some new Air Jordans, man. Like those.
Should go talk with that Adept from GSL the other day.
Exactly. I
Man,
mean,
just launch itself over a supply depot.
if you get the right shoes, you can absolutely make that jump. He's kind of slacking there. So we're already seeing a very different style from Harstem here than we saw in the entire best of 5 of the Young Goblin. This time it's going to be a Twilight opening with a robotics facility as well. It looks like a Dark Shrine indeed. Okay, I mean, this is one of these things. Recently, SpeCial actually made a tweet. If you guys follow these pro gamers, you may have seen the tweet that I'm going to talk about. But he's like, yeah, what we really need is like more maps with only like one entry into the main base, and then Protoss players build a pylon. And this is exactly what Harstem did. If you build your pylon exactly on that line, the Reaper can actually not enter. And since Harstem went for a full wall off on the bottom side of the ramp as well, there's actually no way for Terran players to scout unless they drop a scan. But Terran players are very greedy boys. They don't want to drop scans. They want to have the mules because they want to catch up economically. So at this point, SpeCial is like, well, I hope I sort of know what's happening, but I don't think we have a Raven. I don't think we have an eBay. I don't think he's necessarily thinking of a Dark Shrine opening.
Harstem has been doing such a great job with these small little things. Every single time the Reaper has gotten even close to that gateway, he starts up a unit. He started up a Zealot once or twice and canceled it as soon as the Reaper gets pushed back. Starts up a Sentry when the Reaper approaches and cancels it. Now he's finally building a Stalker, but SpeCial is incredibly in the dark right now. He is going for his own Widow Mines back at home, but like you said, no engineering bay or anything, so this is going to be really tough. The Widow Mine is not quite correctly positioned to catch the War Prism, but he will spot it. Oh, maybe not. He does get
Oh, and he gets the
DTs.
DTs! Are you kidding me? I have never seen that. I really... Oh, he gets 2!
Oh my God.
Kidding.
That
What?
is massive. This entire push has now been revealed, as well as the fact that now
Oh
Harstem has
my
lost so many
God.
resources. The entire timing is gone.
Ravi, I have watched and played a lot of StarCraft in my life. I have never seen that happen.
Roddy?
With the very first 2 DTs, sure, like, you know, in a late game scenario, some splash damage, yeah, that kind of stuff happens. But as an opening where SpeCial was completely in the dark, this could have potentially done game-ending damage if he would have dropped a Mew or something. I absolutely cannot believe what just happened. I mean, SpeCial is one hell of a player, but sometimes, guys, you get a little fortunate in StarCraft 2, and this was one of those moments.
I think the funniest part about that is that if Harstem was just a little bit slower player, he wouldn't have the DTs warping in so quickly. But okay, the DT does get out. It snipes off 2 workers. It's going to force some missile turrets, so there's something that he does get over here. He's going to be getting up his 3rd Nexus, as we saw before, but that Raven finishing up over here, it's not just for detecting a bunch of the DTs, it's going to be useful for other things and using that interference matrix.
Sorry, Ravi, you can carry me out.
Okay, no
I'm
worries.
in disbelief of what I've just seen. Because like,
Yeah.
like a lot of things in StarCraft do have a very big impact on the game. And often we see like very cool and crazy moments. But if they're like on 4 base plus, 80 workers across the board, a lot of those things like, yeah, they're cool and explosive, but they're not necessarily like detrimental or have a massive impact. This just had such a big impact. The random Widow Mine connecting with the Prism, that's already awesome, because then you know there's a Prism. Getting the 2 Dark Templars underneath as well with the splash damage, even though he didn't even see him. I mean, I've got a smile on my face because of disbelief. It's like, that's just so sick.
Yeah.
That's actually the definition of so sick. If you look it up in the dictionary, it's like special.
It's just a picture of that Widow Mine sniping off
Absolutely.
2 DTs it can't see.
Oh,
Yeah.
Unreal.
So, Roddy, from those transition points of the Dark Shrine, you see a bunch of gateways and, of course, Charge being a research. You see some upgrades. How do you try and transition out over here as Harstem?
I mean, like, if you look at that army of special, that's not necessary. Oh, there's a Widow Mine. That Widow Mine can actually one-shot the Prism. It can one-shot the Prism.
Oh, he spots it. He spots it. So for those who don't know, if you are looking really, really close, you can see that little indent. So Harstem doing a great job, great scouting, and spots it out, is going to avoid it for now.
I love how slowly he went to the bottom. He's like, I'm out of range, right? That's like me backwards parking in the city. I'm like, I don't think I hit that car.
It's clearly not a lucky day for him in that sense, so I don't blame him for that. Now, 4 more Zealots do get warped in. He might end up picking up a few of these, or is he just going to end up sacking them? Yeah, just trying to get a couple of more SCVs.
But Harstem is buying some time in. That's obviously the right way, even though this Prism is going to fly into the bio units there, and it does go down with 3 Zealots inside of it, so that's obviously still quite painful. But to answer your initial question, how do you get back into it? I mean, like, well, if SpeCial would have moved out with a tiny force, just a couple of Marines, then a Guardian Shooter and a few Zealots with charge would have absolutely been able to slaughter that army. Right now, this bio army is suddenly a lot bigger. There are Widow Mines in the mix as well. I mean, basically what you're hoping for here as Protoss is a magnificent engagement where the Widow Mines splash a little bit over the bio as well. It doesn't have to be like total friendly fire, but as long as you can get a tiny bit of Widow Mine damage on the bio units, there is hope. If he doesn't get that at all, then I don't think there is any stopping this Terran army.
I was wondering where the Raven was with that push, but it looks like it's actually going for some auto turret harassment. Dropping all of the auto turrets. He is getting a lot of workers, and I guess he draws some of the army out of position, but here comes the big bio force. Here comes some of those forces trapping in a lot of that bio. Are the Zealots enough to hold over here? Actually, the DT's doing a lot of damage, and he is pushing this pack.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good use of the force fields there. It's going to blink forward as well. Really wants to get that matter of fact, that's full of units. Good focus fire there by SpeCial, sniping one of those Stalkers and blocking the path of these other Stalkers, making it harder for the Stalkers to continue chase on that matter of fact. This was still good though for SpeCial, but I am impressed that Harstem is still sort of hanging in this game.
Yeah, how do you feel about the Raven not being a part of that fight and going for this harassment? I mean, of course it did get a lot of damage done, but would it have made the difference in that fight?
With an anti-armor missile, potentially, but once again, it really depends on how the Widow Mines, you never know with Trader Mines, right? Are they fantastic mines or do they betray the Terran army? I do feel though that you're raising a very valid point there, because I feel like there are moments where some of these great Terran players, instead of their multitasking, instead of the splitting up the army and harassing a little bit, I feel like sometimes you just keep your army together and you just aim, move, stim, and win. But instead, sometimes I feel like Terran players make the game a tiny bit too complicated. Like, I'm going to drop here, I'm going to drop there. And they actually give some chance to the Protoss to actually get a good fight here and there and somehow stay alive. Well, in the straight-up fight, I don't think Harstem would have had much of a chance. How many mines do we have here? Okay, that's plenty of mines.
Yeah.
I really like the way the SpeCial's playing this in the end, and I think something very crazy has to happen for SpeCial not to win this game.
Okay, Widow Mines are going to start burrowing. The charge loss are all on the front lines, and oh boy, it's...
That's a really good connection.
Pretty good connection. Softens up a lot of those Zealots.
It's really good. Like, it looked maybe a little bit less impactful because most of the bio ended up inside of the medevac.
Yeah.
But Harstem just lost like 20 supply-ish, a lot of splash damage, which makes the next fight even harder for Harstem. He's going to try to go up to 4 bases, but Ro24 says, no, that's not going to happen. He will get an immediate cancel on that one as well. He can go into the main base, and Harstem is way out of position, and he's supply blocked.
Oh, that supply block is really going to hurt. Maybe relying on that pylon that finish up over the 4th base. Going to lose even more of these pylons to get even further supply block. Luckily, he does have those 4 on the way. But Storm is going to be finishing up soon. There's only 2 High Templars that I spot out. And remember, he's supply blocked, so he can't make any more for a little bit. But those 2 High Templars, they can change the tide of a big battle.
It's Raven. How did that Raven survive? I thought the Raven was...
Stalkers push the Raven into the corner with their attacks.
Okay, I thought it was dead. Like,
yeah, so did I.
I gave up on that Raven.
Juanito did not.
No, and he was right apparently. I mean, 103 supply. I would really like to see Juanito keep this game a little simpler for himself right now. Like I said, sometimes I do believe that Starcraft 2 players make games too complicated. It's like, grab everything you have right now, 104 supply, scan where the High Templars are, drop an EMP, and you're all Gucci, you know, a little bit of kiting. Because yes, Harstem has a big army, but it's mostly Zealots, and he has nothing really to keep this bio army in check, right? You're not going to force put this army in forever, especially not when it's this big. I do like these run-bys by Harstem.
Yeah, this is, I think, like the 4th or 5th run-by that he's done with either a single Zealot or a DT or a couple of Zealots, but it seems like SpeCial's finally caught on to that. He's got units in position. He's going to be catching a bunch of these charge lots who already expend their charge, so they're having a hard time getting away. But here we go. Harstem wants to go for that Guardian Shield. He wants to engage over here, sniping off the medevacs, prioritizing those. But SpeCial's army, I really feel like he has to be careful about that.
Yeah, one storm can absolutely turn this game upside down. I mean, we've seen that plenty of times throughout the history of StarCraft 2. We know how impactful storm can be. There are a couple goals on the map. I don't like where Harstem's army is right now because it's kind of giving the center of the map. He spotted it with the DT though, so he knows where his army is. I think he's relying on some very big storms here, Ravi.
Uh-oh, the Widow Mines are going to get an opportunity to jump into the correct position to try and snipe off any of these charges off the dive board. There is a pretty decent storm, at least batters down some of the Marauders. War Prism tries to go into the main base. It is going to get sniped off by the missile turret, but 2 Zealots unload during that, and that's going to be a little bit of an annoyance here during a very multitask-involved fight.
Yep, there's only one more storm available. That one High Templar is coming in from the back. It needs to land a massive storm. I don't know why it's not getting in range. There it does try to get that big storm, but it only kind of clips the army. Archons, yeah, they'll be tanky, but I don't think they're really going to make the difference in this fight, even though the bio is running very low on HP, and it's only +1 attack so far. You gotta love the control coming out of SpeCial right now.
And the Raven actually comes out of the woodworks as well. It gets sniped off, but we are starting to see that SpeCial is climbing further and further ahead of supply. GG gets called. SpeCial takes the first game.
SpeCial takes that first game, but all things considered, if we go back to that opening where the Dark Temple opening did absolutely nothing, where Harstem got super unfortunate, I actually think Harstem played a pretty damn decent game there.
Absolutely.
Because it's really hard to open up in an opening like that and just do absolutely 0 damage. I don't think that's a loss. That's really going to shake him up too much. He's like, you know what? I got really freaking unlucky there. It happens. It's part of the game sometimes. That will happen once in a best of 5, but I won't lose the entire best of 5 because of moments like that. You got to shake it off, keep it together, and actually take the positive of that game. And I felt that Harstem got a couple of pretty decent fights in there.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is just making all the right decisions to try and come back in a game like that where you are behind. Because you don't want to play a game where you are behind the same way you play a game where you're even, right? You got to take a couple of risks here and there. So he's going for a lot of these Zealot run-bys.
He was kind of forced to
exactly.
make that. Like, normally Harstem is not a Protoss who's like, oh, PvT, I'm basically going to open up with like 27 Zealots and 3 Stalkers. Like, his hand was kind of forced there because if he would tack up too quickly, too hard, he would simply die. So he didn't have a lot of choices, but you're spot on. Like, he wouldn't have made the same choices in a game where even if his Dark Templars would have gotten, let's say, 4 or 5 SCVs and a scan, that's a completely different game, and Harstem would have played it in a completely different way.
Yeah, to Juanito's also credit, though, there was some... this did sometimes maybe cause some questions about how the engagements and stuff were going, but Juanito was doing a great job. SpeCial was doing a really great job with the Raven harassment. He was doing a good job with sniping off all of those different tech buildings and everything. So I think that Harstem's got to be a little bit careful moving into this second game if he's going to take another risk like that.
I was a tiny bit worried about the upgrades in the end from a Mexican Terran because he really seemed quite slow on it. +2 was very, very late, and that can have a very big impact in the rest of this series and some of these other games. Anyway, we'll take a look at the finalist, the runner-up of WCS Spring. He wants to make another magical run. It is SpeCial.
And on the other side, we have in the bottom left-hand side of the map, the red Protoss player goes by the name of Harstem.
Representing Asterion. He's been with them for quite some time. It's good to see him still happy.
Always fitting when a player is in the same team colors as their team jersey. I always like that.
Yeah, I always played with orange in Warcraft 3, so that makes sense for me.
Oh yeah, Fnatic Roddy. Forgot about that.
Those were the days, Ravi. Sometimes I fall asleep and I think I'm still 18, running around my Farseer.
Oh, Lord. Well, well, talk to me about these 2 barracks that have been thrown up in the main base, and Harstem's going to see one of them.
Yeah, that's really weird. I actually would love to see where he takes this. Maybe he goes for like that opening that Future tried to pull off as well with the Marine. Or he goes maybe 3 Reaper opening. Is that a possibility? There are certain Terrans that used to open up with 3 Reapers for a little while on maps like King's Cove and New Repugnancy, but it's pretty wild. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so the probe is going to be sitting over here waiting for that command center to be made.
Yep.
And with the supply depot going up over there, but there is a little bit of a gap, and it is going to be, 2 Reapers coming up.
It probably goes for 1 more then, maybe a slightly quicker factory, so then it's like Reaper, and maybe some Hellions, and then he's going to expand. This is kind of weird, though. I don't know how I feel about this. I'll maybe like it a little bit more if he would proxy at least one of the barracks, but both barracks are at home. This is a very uncommon opening in this matchup because the Reapers can have a very big impact on the games, guys. But the quicker the Reapers arrive in your opponent's main base, obviously the more impact they will have. I mean, this probe is going to go down very quickly. Harstem, of course, still doesn't know about this.
He's going to get to the main base. He's going to actually spot out the Reaper coming in from that direction. Is that enough?
No, I don't think that's normally enough. I do think he's a little bit confused about why there is no factory yet.
I think he's going to realize when he sees that Reaper that just kills his probe, and then he sees another Reaper over here, he's like, wait a second, why do you have 2 Reapers right now?
I wonder how often Harstem has played against it. Like, I've seen this, like I said, a couple of times on this map indeed, but most of the time when I play against it, it's a proxy. And that makes a lot of sense to me. Like King's Cove, you proxy it as well. We'll see if these Reapers can...
he's not stopping at 3, Roddy.
No, he just keeps on kind of on going. He's going to run some circles. And basically, to make this really worth it for SpeCial, I would say he's going to have to grab like 3-4 probes in the end. He is obviously forcing Harstem right now to mine off 1 mineral line. As you guys can see, Harstem has a pretty good read on this. He's like, you know what? I don't have the units to defend both mineral lines at once right now, so I'm only going to mine off my main base. I'm going to play this very safe. And so far, it just makes it really hard for SpeCial to get any worker damage done.
Yeah, I'm loving this positional play so far from Harstem. But you can see he keeps trying to chase these Reapers back, say, no, you got to pull back. But he always backs up at the exact right time to make sure these Reapers can't just go dart up into the main base. But SpeCial finding some opportunities, get some damage done, gets 2 workers, darts out.
Yep, and he gets out of there with all the Reapers, right? So that is very important. This is going to be very frustrating. Now, Harstem made a Robo as well at first. I don't know if he likes the Robo against this or if he made the Robo because he wasn't exactly sure what he was up against at first. He might get a Reaper here. He should be able to get.
No.
Reapers are so fast. It's unbelievable.
Really
the thing is, like, if you don't have Blink and you don't have a Stargate, the only thing you can really do here is chase an army that's kind of faster than your army. SpeCial is really good with the placement of his grenades. I love how he keeps these stalkers at base so far. This is actually becoming a very frustrating game for Harstem right now. Really good play by SpeCial. He grabs 2 more probes, and this may not seem that big, guys, but now we're 4 minutes and 20 seconds into the game, and they're pretty much dead even on workers, and that is an amazing position for any Terran player to be in.
Absolutely, and it's one of those things where, of course, Harstem has to constantly move his army back and forth all around, and it can cause small other little mistakes. We'll see Harstem has to stay on top of everything, but the robotics phase now finished up, and you're seeing that not really anything getting started up on the Robo or anything from the robotics space. These small little things.
You know what I love here? That you can kind of see how experienced SpeCial is. I think a lot of Terran players would be like, oh man, I made 5 Reapers. I need to go probes right here, right now. They'd run them in, they'd lose them, you know, they may get 2 or 3. But he's like, no, my opportunity will come. Eventually, these Stalkers are going to be in the wrong position. He grabs 2 workers, and then a little bit later, he grabs 2 more. Really good usage of these grenades. And suddenly, he's like, yep, this opening absolutely worked out. I do think that Harstem maybe got a tiny bit unfortunate. I think the Robo is the worst against this opening. But you can say, but still, you know, he did scout it. He had some opportunity to do something about it, but I think SpeCial just played really well here.
Okay. Well, a stim is getting underway. We are seeing the Twilight Council's over there. Did I hallucinate or imagine the robotics bay being started?
I thought he started that as well, yes. Did he
Yeah. No, I don't see one anymore.
Okay, maybe he cancelled it.
I think he might have canceled it.
Maybe he scouted something with the hallucinated Phoenix and he's like, you know what, I'm going to need charge instead. I'm going to need a lot of gateways. Because obviously this is a map where a lot of very strong 2-base Terran plays are possible. We all know about these bunkers being built in the natural of the Protoss player. This is a pretty sick scout, but it's ripping.
Wow. And it's even going to get out alive. That is just a frustration point, I'm sure. But SpeCial is going to get spotted by the observers.
Harstem should move his army out right now, sorry, Ralph, but I think Harstem needs to get out there a little bit. He cannot just stay here in his natural. I think he needs to get out a little bit. He needs to sort of pretend he wants to kite his army, even though he doesn't have blink and he can't really kite, but he needs to buy time because he obviously cannot take any fight before he has charge.
That one adept actually pulling SpeCial's entire army back. Now, SpeCial did snipe off the observer, so he knows he was spotted. Maybe he was expecting that the army was going to be, I guess, meeting him in the center of the map, so he wanted to be careful about that. But yeah, Harstem's just been sitting back. He's hallucinating another Phoenix. He's sending out another observer, and he will eventually, I imagine, spot out that third base.
I mean, it is pretty crazy to see a TvP where the Terran is out-expanding the Protoss, right?
Yeah.
How often do you see this command center on location, by the way, going down before the third nexus? So in the end, Punita's like, yeah, I pretended I want to attack you, and I stopped you from maybe going into that Robotech if that was your plan all along. Now you're stuck with your Zealot composition. I mean, there is going to be a relatively quick storm, and we do know that the sky is the limit when you put a couple of High Templars into a War Prism. That can absolutely turn games upside down. But so far, SpeCial is creating a pretty big advantage for himself.
Absolutely. Now, Harstem, of course, it still does need to go for that third base, even if he wants to try and put on some pressure. But yeah, another observer getting sniped off, and he has to make another one of these observers. This does take away a little bit from his army, or if he loses the War Prism or something, that could be a big frustration point. But both these players barely bypassing each other. The missile turret getting started up here in the main base. I don't know if it's going to finish in time. Yeah, the War Prism will wait around for it for a moment.
SpeCial knows that Harstem is going up to 3 bases. I think he scouted it with the Reaper or something, but then he also throws down a scan. He's like, whoa, you're on 2 bases all along. That probably means I'm in a really good position. Finds a couple of these Zealots in the middle of the map as well. This probably means that Harstem is going to fly into the main base, but I can only imagine that SpeCial has plenty of units nearby. Maybe they're on the low ground, but he should have quite a bit of supply here to deal with this eventually.
I don't know, Kev. This is looking like a lot of Zealots, and the army just isn't here. It's all in the center of the map.
No, he's got a couple units here, right? Like, he hasn't been reinforcing his little push in the middle of the map, so he should have had these units. A couple of Zealots getting dropped on these SCVs as well. The tanks are dealing some friendly fire.
Yeah, one of the tanks taking a lot of damage there, but does manage to keep both of them alive. The missile turret! The missile turret! Oh! Down it goes.
That's massive, actually. That has such a big impact on the game right now. This creates a lot of freedom for SpeCial. Finally, Harstem was finding a little bit of momentum for himself. Harstem is now forced to reproduce that Prism immediately. And think about the robo time this game, Ravi. It's been Observer, 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 War Prism, now another War Prism. So in the end, this is going to be a very basic Gateway army. Yeah, we're going to get Storm, but that's about it, guys. These storms are not going to have to be good storms. They're going to have to be magnificent storms. Otherwise, Harstem is going to be in so much trouble.
Lucky for Harstem, he's had those High Templars for a while, so he's banking up a lot of energy, and we're going to start to see the push out here from SpeCial. Harstem, he's definitely going to fight at the top of the ramp over here and force that army to try and move up. War Prism. Don't want to lose another one of those anytime soon, but oh my god! Roddy, I think those are the storms you were asking for.
Yep, I think that's a very sweet start to the battle. Still has to be a little bit careful there. He can still just kind of chill on the high ground. Harstem would love to have like a couple of Zealots right now on the other side of the map. Instead, it's SpeCial with Liberators in the natural, Liberators in the main base as well. He's doing some pretty decent damage, and he's making this very hard for Harstem.
Oh, Harstem, he only noticed the Liberator at the natural. He finally notices the Liberator in the main base, but 8 workers killed.
Can we take a look at the natural SpeCial real quick, guys?
Harstem putting on some pressure there with some Zealot harassment. It looks like it's getting dealt with pretty quickly. No SCVs going down here.
Yeah, he simply didn't really have the numbers, and he doesn't have the reinforcements point, right? Like, he doesn't have that initial prism anymore. SpeCial is actually loading up all of his units. This would be very risky.
Whoa!
It's good that he turns around there.
Those medevacs are not too healthy either.
Exactly.
Definitely wouldn't have gone well. Oh, I like that little Widowmine burrow. Is it going to get anything? Maybe a single Zealot.
I mean, if there is one thing you always got to praise SpeCial for, it's his macro, though, right, Ravi? Look at that, 76 workers. He's going up to 4 bases now, 20 worker advantage for a Mexican Terran player over the Dutch Protoss. And yes, there is Storm, but I mean, SpeCial simply not giving Harstem the fight that he's dreaming of right now. And he's like, no, I'm actually in a really good economic position. I like where I'm at. You see a lot of probes there. That's kind of idling, right? That's after the Liberator res. It seems like SpeCial is just a little more on point so far than Harstem is.
Well, Harstem's finally going to be playing a little bit catch up in those upgrades. With +2 armor finishing, he will have 2 of his own upgrades to match the 1-1 upgrades of SpeCial. SpeCial in the big storm over there with a lot of his army. His Marines and Marauders are softened up pretty heavily. Now the storm does take out a Widowmine, and Liberated Harassment is going to get taken care of eventually by a Photon Cannon, but still getting a lot of damage done.
Yep, there's a couple mines here as well. You gotta be careful with your High Templars. There are some ghosts in the mix as well, looking for those big EMPs. Harstem taking a very awkward fight here. EMP gets all of the High Templars. There's still some in the War Prism, but that Prism is very low on HP as well. And I actually think that SpeCial might just be able to do it here. Harstem has almost nothing left. It's one more storm, and it is a good storm. But look at that army. This feels like such a silly, wonky Protoss army at this point. I mean, SpeCial is going to retreat for now, but he has created a massive advantage for himself.
Even getting the Immortals in that army with the EMP. Now their barriers are on cooldown. Another Archon's going to get morphed in, but there's still ghosts available. Some good feedbacks, but he actually picks up the ghosts into the medevac, drops them on the High Templars, and EMP is the last of the High Templars. No Storm is going to be available. It's purely just these Archons now. But Roddy, are the Archons going to be enough on their own? The Liberators are doing a lot of damage to them.
The Liberators are doing an insane amount of damage. A few Marauders, that's going to be enough, I think. This is it. The writing seems to be on the wall. A few Stalkers are going to try to save the day, but the last Archon does go down. You look at the production tab, Harstem just really has not much anymore going on. This Nexus is taking quite a bit of damage. A few Zealots, they're going to try to save the day, but I think Harstem knows that these fights have simply not been good enough.
Yeah, another Stalker goes down, as does the few remaining Zealots here, and SpeCial is just on rally to win at this point. If this base goes down, no. GG, SpeCial takes 2 games in a row.
Man, that was such a cool opening by SpeCial, and once again, I love the patience that he displayed with the Reapers. A lot of people be like, I opened double barracks before my CC. I really need to get in there. I need to get probes right here, right now. Harstem played it very safe at first, but then eventually he's like, well, I kind of need to start mining off 2 bases, and that's when Juanito struck. That's when he got a couple probes, not once, but twice, and he just put himself in a good position, and from that point on, I think he played a very, very clean game. I mean, SpeCial's macro was just on point.
Yeah, absolutely. SpeCial is one of those players which I always love about his play, is that you can watch him do all these pressure plays, you can watch him do these attacks, and every single time you look back at home and there's still another army over there. And he's so good about that. It's very, very difficult for Harstem to try and deal with something like that. So game number 3, game number 2 was different than game number 1, because of course we were talking about that the weirdness of game number 1, where there was the Widowmine that kills off the DTs and everything. Harstem plays from behind, right? Yeah. Game number 2, that doesn't really happen. It's obviously a weird opening from SpeCial, but I feel like it really was just SpeCial playing a lot better.
Yeah, it was a weird opening, and I think it thrown him off, and I really think that SpeCial hoped that Harstem would indeed open Robo here, because often as a Protoss player, when you feel something is a little bit off, but you don't know exactly what is off, you're like, I'll probably open Robo here, because Robo is good against everything, right? I can't die. That's true, but it's not necessarily the best opening against everything. Like, it's a middle down the road, but I think against the Reapers, it really wasn't that sweet, and I think it just didn't work out. I'm just confirming, by the way, there was indeed a Robo Bay on the way for Harstem. So at one point, Harstem is like, you know what? I think SpeCial's going to follow this up with a big bio push, so I'm going to go Colossus. But it almost feels that SpeCial wanted Harstem to feel like that, so he moves out, and then Harstem is like, okay, maybe these big Robo units won't be out in time. I'm going to cancel this. I'll go Storm, or I'll go Zealot charge at first to survive. And then SpeCial's like, yeah, Zealots are good. But if I've got a sweet 3-base economy as a Terran player, then it's suddenly not that scary anymore, right? So it really feels that everything in this game went according to SpeCial's plan, and it feels that Harstem was kind of playing the guessing game.
This is a tough spot now for Harstem. As remember, this is now the playoff bracket, so Any losses over here, and you're out of the tournament. Harstem is playing for his tournament life at this point. And SpeCial, he's got 3 games to play with, but SpeCial isn't the kind of guy who's going to play with his food, man. He is going to go straight for it. He's going to go for that win in the 3rd game. Can't wait to see what these guys are going to be going for as a SpeCial. Just waiting around for that next game to get started up, but clearly Korean practice has been paying off for SpeCial.
Yeah, his TvP definitely looking very good so far. I still would love to see like a super straightforward game where, let's say, it's a Reaper, fast expand, and he goes for the drop. Let's see how they dance with each other then, because I think this is a very interesting matchup. It's a matchup we don't see super often, even though these 2 guys are veterans. You know, SpeCial is mostly in that Korean scene, Harstem is mostly in the European scene. So I'd love to see this one go on for a little bit longer, Ravi.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to be jumping into game number 3 on King's Cove as we start down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. Top of the Mexican Terran player, he goes by the name of SpeCial.
And in the left top side of King's Cove, the Dutchman, he's had a phenomenal run throughout that knockout bracket so far, but he needs to pull something special, something magical here to turn this one around. It is Harstem. Something special.
Indeed.
I think this is a good little macro map. I'd love to see Harstem. Like, all I want in this best of 5 is one game where Harstem gets, like, let's say he gets up to 3 bases a little bit faster than SpeCial, but he's got a good read on the game. He gets a couple observers well spread out, and then he gets into his Colossus, Blink Stalker army, and then down the line we can get some Storm as well. Because I think, like, the way that Harstem was playing, for instance, in game 1, right? His hand was kind of forced, sure. But like Zealot, Storm, it can really catch a lot of Terrans off guard, and it's a really complicated composition to fight against as a Terran player. But I think SpeCial is that good that I think what he hates the most are these rock-solid Protosses, right? That sit there with their observers, with their full map vision. It's like, you want to drop me? I'm ready. I'm not moving out. Basically having the rain approach from the old days. I'm going to get this very powerful Protoss army. I'm going to get my Blink Stalkers. I'm going to get my Colossus, Archons, and Storm down the line, maybe even a Disruptor. And I think that is what SpeCial hates. So I don't really like the idea of, like, you know, let's make it a scrappy game against SpeCial, because, man, SpeCial's so freaking good. We know he's good. This is a top 16 GSL Code S player. This is the runner-up of WCS Spring. The only man that he couldn't defeat back then is Cero, but that goes for all of us. So
yeah.
I don't want to see scrappy games. I don't want to see like micro-intense back and forth. No, be that rock as a Protoss player and make the game frustrating for SpeCial. I think that would be the best game plan for Harstem.
Now, I mean, the real question here, Roddy, is do you think that that is something under Harstem's
Absolutely.
repertoire?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Harstem, if I think of Harstem's PvZ, I actually think of a pretty patient PvZ player, right? Somebody that likes to sit there with his Archons and Immortals and his Storm and kind of forces the Zerg player. I think Harstem likes late game. I think he's very okay with passive play, and I think that would be the best approach against somebody like SpeCial.
All right. Well, it's going to be opening up with the Stargate, so we'll see what the first unit that comes out of that will be.
What do you think of that second barracks already, Ravi?
Yeah, second barracks is definitely pretty early over here, and we do see factory finish up at the same time, so...
Is he going to open like 2-1-1?
There was a small period of time where a lot of Terran players were going for the 2-1-1, not just in TvZ, but in TvP.
I know.
Not
it's one of those weird builds that can actually catch Protoss players off guard.
He's going for the Widowmine, though, so...
Well, that's the anti-Oracle Widowmine. That's the one Widowmine you put in a random spot and then the Oracle flies into it.
Okay.
Big brain gaming.
We're going to find out eventually, I guess.
Tech lab. I think it's going to be a tech lab on that barracks, man. I think he's just going for a super quick stim here.
All right. Reaper, did the Reaper actually spot out the Stargate?
That's a good question. Yep.
Yeah, okay. So he has seen that, and that's going to give him ample opportunity, like you said, to get that Widowmine in position.
And he gets the tech lab already as well. Viking on the way. This is going to be kind of difficult to scout. I mean, even a special... Oh, my goodness. This Oracle. Is it on collusion course?
Ooh, it's really, really close. Oh, the Reaper might be able to bait it, though.
Yeah. It's like, hi, I'm here. I'm the Reaper.
But the Reaper's not going to run into the Oracle, or vice versa.
I like that, though.
Oh,
I like
it's
it
going to cover it? Yeah.
Oh,
well, I mean, it makes it harder to see.
If Harstem falls for it, Harstem is really going to hate himself. I mean, like, that's one of these things that, you know, shouldn't happen. The Viking not out yet, by the way, but there are a couple Marines here.
I think the other funny thing is when you see a Viking or something, it's pretty often you just go around, and if you find the Reaper, a lot of the time the Oracle will just dive for it, but he doesn't find it. Almost a little bit thankful for Harstem.
No, he should be happy that he doesn't see this Reaper, because you're spot on. Like, often Protoss players will be like, oh, well, at least I get the Reaper, and you turn on your pulsar beam, you're like, no, I can't believe I fell for that again, you know. This is like the 17th time this week.
Yeah.
I should know better. And that's such a quick stim. it is really important that Harstem picks up on this. Okay, the Adept is actually going to see this Widow Mine, but it sees it a little bit too late, so the Adept will go down. I'm starting to get a little bit worried here, man, because Harstem's opening, that's super greedy. 3 bases are like, what? That's the fastest Nexus I've ever seen. He's going for an Immortal. He's got nothing that is good against Tim Bio right now.
I mean, he's even having trouble right now with his Reaper. He's got a single Zealot chasing this. There's not actually anything. The Adept did get picked off. Widow Mines do get set off on the Phoenix, which means that the Oracles can take those out and maybe dive in on that mineral line. No, there's still a Widow Mine over there, and the Marines come charging forward. 5 workers have gone down during all this, by the way, to the Viking plus the Reaper harass.
This is actually not good for Harstem. Can we take a look at the units lost? Because I feel one more expensive Protoss unit went down, right? No. So why did both mines fire? That was kind of confusing, right?
I think it was the one that got set off earlier on from the Adept, yeah.
Okay, man, that countdown timer is long. Poor time players. So this Viking's still not done. You got to be very happy with this if you're special. There is a Robo Bay on the way, but it's very important that soon Harstem actually figures out what exactly is happening on the other side of the map, because I don't think he ever got like a revelation of on the army, because this bio ball is going to be a little bit bigger and it's going to hit quite a bit harder than you normally expected. And before the Colossus is out, Ravi, I am very worried here for Harstem. I don't think Harstem has any idea about this at all.
Okay, well, if he can snipe off a medevac with 2 of these Widow Mines in the mix, this would be a really, really nice pick-off.
It is, don't get me wrong, it makes Harstem life a little bit easier, but look at the bio unit. Special's like, yeah, you have no idea, right? Harstem is like, no, I absolutely have no idea. All these units are going to run up that ramp, they're going to stim, and I look at that army, and that is a lot of DPS. There's a Liberator sneaking the main base as well. Man, Special's playing like a genius, Ravi.
Probe's not actually being pulled in time for that Liberator, and as soon as he looks around for the Liberator, the Marines stim up the ramp exactly like you said, and they're going to find a barren mineral line with absolutely nothing here. 1 Colossus is halfway done, but that is way too far away. Probes get recalled, but where do you even go at this point?
Okay, he's going to try to save the Nexus, and if he saves the Nexus, you can say like that's sort of something. Special's already 7 workers ahead, but at least that Nexus survived. But I'm very, very impressed with the performance so far by Special. I love almost everything he's doing. He's setting all of these plays up. These are not like, I'm going for this play. He's like, no, I'm going for this play to make the next play better and make the next play even better. It really feels like we're watching a well-oiled Terran machine here, and Harstem is just not really ready for all the ways that Special's hitting him.
And Special's loading up another one of these medevacs. He's got a decent force in the center of the map. The Observer trailing behind. I don't believe he actually saw the medevac getting loaded up, though. He's got his army between his natural and his 3rd base, so he might be able to react pretty quickly, but Oracle manages to survive, and Special stemming up the ramp over the natural at the same time that he hits the 3rd.
Yep, and once again, Harstem feels a little bit out of position. His army is slow, right? So a couple of probes have gone down. Maybe a pylon goes down here. Let's see if Special can actually get out of it. Yep, and that other medevac went to the main base, by the way. There's absolutely nothing here. Where are those oracles or something? Can they do it? We'll see if they can actually save the day here. It seems like the answer is yes. I love it when Pulsar Beam goes into the medevac.
If only it did damage to the medevac too, Roddy.
That's what we need, bro. That's what we need. I mean, Harstem hanging in there, only losing a couple of probes this time. But don't forget, during all of this, Harstem is not attacking at all. And what do Terran players hate? They hate Zealot run-bys. They hate War Prisms in their main base. And it's not that Harstem doesn't think those things are good. It's just Harstem does not have time right now because Special is keeping him way too busy.
Yeah. Combat Shields is about to finish up, so all of this aggression that Special keeps just lobbing over and over and over again against Harstem is going to become even harder. But 2 Colossus definitely going to cause some problems. Special's going to have to back off a little bit. And again, his medevac pressure is starting to get swatted back. So Harstem is finally getting a little bit of that ground you were talking about, that solid defense.
I think at this point, you just like kind of sit back, man. Like you kind of rely on these observers that you have. It's clear that Special's playing a hyper-aggressive series so far. That's the first Disruptor already. I actually find that a little bit early, but hey, Disruptors can be very powerful defensive units. It's incredibly difficult for Terran players to run into armies with Disruptors. So maybe Harstem is like, you know what, I've had enough of this. I'm going to build some cannons. I'm going to try to survive. One more Oracle does go down. That's a very sweet pickoff, man. Like, how often do you see that? 3 random Han Solo Marines running up a ramp, getting an Oracle?
Really, really nice pickoff. Revelations are still tagged on the army, though. And there's that 1 Oracle left over that can continue to do that. So if Harstem can keep that Revelation on these medevacs especially, then he's not going to get caught off guard nearly as much by a lot of those random drops that Special's been thrown at him. But like you said, Special has calmed down and really isn't going for as much of that.
No. Harstem's army just feels very weak at this point, and I think he knows it, so he's probably like not even thinking about any sort of aggression. He's like, you know what, I'm gonna get my blink, it's very late, but I'm just gonna focus on defending, and as long as I can max out, you have a chance, right? You always have a fighting chance. If you get up to 200 supply, you've got a chance. Even if your opponent has 2 more bases, who cares? You can maybe take a phenomenal fight. Upgrade-wise, we mentioned this at the end of the first game, which was a Acropolis, right? That I feel like the +2 of SpeCial is really quite late. And now once again, he only starts at like 10 minutes into the game. Because this game, it feels like SpeCial has been dominating, but there's absolutely still hope for Harstem if he just gets one very good fight.
Yep, Disruptors are pretty much the dream makers when it comes to trying to take some miracle engagements over here. But
yes, shield battery is super important as well. I know he's getting one. He's going to use that purification. No, but the bio steams away. Going to keep the Colossus alive. The first one does go down, but I do kind of like these force fields though. That makes it a lot harder for the bio to protect the Vikings from these Stalkers. I think Harstem did that very well, considering the fact that he was working with way less than SpeCial was working.
Yeah, a solid defense on that high ground there for King's Cove, but Harstem is going to be seeing a wave 2 coming forward very soon, but he's actually going to be trying to move down the ramp. He loses the Oracle in the process. Another Disruptor wave comes out, and a pretty good split there for SpeCial, but it's a little bit too late. And Harstem finds some damage. Second Disruptor, not quite as effective, and most of the Colossus have now fallen.
Yeah, well, just one Colossus survives. There are 3 more Vikings, but they're not getting that final Colossus, and with only 2 Vikings, things are going to be really hard. I would have loved to see just one more battery there. Look at Harstem. He's actually going up to 4 bases. Those Medivacs feel very exposed, but don't blink forward. That's something that is often going to cost you. I mean, that one Colossus is still so low HP. Beautiful splits here by SpeCial. Only a single Marine going down.
That's every
against
Disruptor.
2 of those Disruptor shots.
And now we're going to see both of the Disruptors getting focus fire down. That one Colossus barely staying alive in the back as all of the Vikings have fallen. And Harstem is going to be able to once again force this back with the 4th base taking some damage. Some more reinforcements coming in from SpeCial. Is it going to be enough? A couple of Liberators looks like encountering one of the Phoenix, and once they take care of that, then SpeCial can hit on multiple fronts.
I love that. That was very cute. Stand off.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is Harstem is already getting quite a few Zealots as well, and he still doesn't have charge. And because he lost most of his air units, he has a couple of Stalkers here, by the way, to potentially deal with it. But if SpeCial just attacks like 2 or 3 locations at once now, the main army of Harstem is going to be very weak. Because don't forget, charge is still not done. It's nowhere near done. So those Zealots, Ravi, they're useless.
Okay, here we go. We're starting to see some of those Zealots. They use their charge, but then they end up
No, they have
backing
no
off.
charge, mate.
Oh, sorry, you're right. It's only halfway done. You were just saying that, but we do see that a few more of those Zealots getting picked off. A Liberator is going to gradually get picked off, but getting a lot of Stalkers in exchange for it.
Yeah, now these Liberators going to get... I'm surprised that Harstem was so eager to go up to 4 bases. I guess he didn't want to fall too far behind macro-wise, but he definitely did make this all a lot harder on himself, and now he's going to grab all of his units. He does not keep the Nexus alive. Does he at least get a few bio units for his effort? I mean, yeah, he got a couple, and he's forcing SpeCial to disengage. Hey, but slowly but steady, at least Harstem might be getting 2 upgrades, Blink, Charge, and Colossus. Like, I don't love his position, but I do believe he has a fighting chance.
You feel like he has a window that he has to try and make something happen, all these
No, I think you just defend at this point. I honestly think that his window is defending.
Like, so tough because SpeCial is not just on his 4th base, he's finished his 5th base. He's floating it over.
But I think if he attacks, like, he's even in upgrades. I mean, no, I don't think that's when you attack. I think you kind of just hope to get Storm, and you hope that SpeCial overcommits. You hope that he takes one really bad fight where you blink forward. Maybe some defense. Don't forget, Protoss defenses can be very powerful with cannon, shield batteries, defensive warpins. So there's absolutely some hope.
Marine with a dream over here. Gonna go for a 2nd probe kill. Oh, don't think it got it, unfortunately. But there's a decent number of Liberators making their way with a Doom drop, and then one Zealot is going to spot this out. Harstem, are you going to get there in time? It looks like if the Liberators dawdle for a little bit, they will.
He can't send everything. He knows it because he needs to keep that 4th base alive as well. This is a really sweet setup by SpeCial. That's so many Liberators. That's going to be really quite hard to engage in. The Stalker's getting a little bit ahead of the rest of the army as well. This Colossus needs to stay alive, and he doesn't micro it. And the Stalkers here are not going to win the fight against the bio. SpeCial is just hitting multiple places at once, and he seems to be hitting, or at least winning the majority of the fights, even though those storms were massive. So Harstem does keep the 4th base alive, but he did lose his natural in the process.
He lost a lot of his units over here at the natural as well. The Colossus looks so low on hit points over here. SpeCial might even try and go for it with one of these units in the Medivacs. But it looks like the Stalkers will be able to force him back for now. Harstem is on such a low economy. He's going for these Zealot run-bys. He's trying to keep SpeCial somewhat in check, but SpeCial handles that and still has this setup over here. Funny enough, extra
That's really
Phoenix
cute.
finding some value.
And he actually gets one of the Liberators. Now he can maybe blink forward. That's exactly what he does. So he gets 4 Liberators here in the end. Can he keep his fort base alive?
Oh,
Though this base, of course, is so important. It's only High Templars, and that means -1. The other ones are forced to morph into an Archon. Drop in the main base as well. Harstem doing whatever he can to hang in there. But SpeCial is just everywhere.
Yeah, and he's recalling to the main base because he knows this is where all of his production is. SpeCial is still finding a lot of probe kills over here. He's finally getting cleaned up on the front lines. He's finally getting cleaned up in the main base, but at what cost, Roddy?
Yeah, SpeCial is getting a lot of economic damage on. Don't forget, he got one of these
7th
Nexus
Liberator
as well, the one in natural, of course. -18 probes. Harstem is finally going to get +3, but you can just look at it. 55 probes going down compared to 3 SCVs. The last game, by the way, I didn't mention it, but it was very similar among those lines. It was the Terran player killing all the workers, not the Protoss, and it's going to be hard to win games like that. But don't forget, like, I think a lot of this goes back to the beginning, right? We're going to take a look at Harstem's first-person viewer, which I think is actually really cool and interesting. We'll see what he's focusing on. He still has an army. He's got a Colossus and a Dream. He looks at the Nexus. He's like, can I afford it? Yes, I can. You can see him glancing at that minimap because he's probably quite paranoid at this point. Because SpeCial just keeps flying in units from every angle.
So annoying to deal with, and behind this again, the scariest thing about SpeCial is not just the harassment or attacks that he puts on, it's the fact that his macro is always on point behind it. He is now maxed out, and Harstem is going for his final hurrah, his last push. If he cannot make this work, he's out of the tournament. SpeCial already up 2-0.
There's a ghost on the right top side of our screen, by the way. Don't forget about that. If it lands an EMP on those High Templars.
Whoa.
Oh
There
my
it is.
god, there
All
is
right.
the money EMP.
There are no more storms left over. Harstem is backing up. His army is beaten and battered with no shields left over. SpeCial already up 2-0 is on the verge of taking his 3rd game and moving on to the next round. GG, well played. SpeCial moving on to the next round.
A dominating performance by the runner-up of WCS Spring. He looked absolutely phenomenal in this best of 5. There's no other way to put it. I love the variety in builds that he brought out. He made it so hard for Harstem to figure out what was happening. I don't think Harstem particularly played bad. I think SpeCial just played great. Did a phenomenal job in keeping him in the dark as well. And I think that's like the power of Starcraft 2 often, right? Like that stim timing in the last game, that's so random. But the way he sold it, the way he kept Harstem busy with the mind drop, with the opening, with the Reaper, I loved everything about it. I think SpeCial played one hell of a series.
All right, we're going to hear from the man himself as he is sitting there on the stage with Smix.
Thank you very much, guys. Congratulations, SpeCial. You are, of course, the WCS Spring runner-up. So it was really, really important for you to take this win here to be able to advance. So initial thoughts on being able to do so in a very convincing 3-0 fashion.
So, I don't know, I just feel very good today compared to yesterday. Yesterday I made really bad mistakes in my group, but I still managed to advance. So, I don't know, I just feel like I'm taking it step by step, but I feel better today.
Map number 1 on Acropolis, what was your reaction when you saw that you got not only a huge hit on the Prism, but that you killed the 2 DTs?
I kind of knew if the DTs died because, like, I don't know how to explain, like, you hear the sound of the DT dying. So, I don't know, I thought it was very big, but I was also saving scans. I kind of knew this is like something very Protoss very like to do on this map because you can really scout. But, so I had it in mind, but obviously killing that was really, really huge for me.
And I know that yesterday, you were saying that you weren't able to perform to your best regard, and the loss that you had was against Showtime, another Protoss player. So were there any things that you learned from that loss, or was it just the day where you didn't feel like you got to show what you meant to show?
I feel like I was really ahead in both games, and I just kind of threw. Even though he played well, it was just mostly my mistake, being very sloppy. But today, I don't know, I feel a little bit better, so hopefully I can do well against man as well.
I wanted to actually ask about the second strategy that you showcased as well with the Double Rax Reaper. We saw that you only killed 4 probes, but still it felt like that gave you enough of an advantage to really carry you forward. So when you saw that you got that damage done, did you also feel that you were in a good position?
Yes, because this map is very good for Terran, and I know how to abuse Protoss very well. So I know how Protoss think, and they're very scared when they see stuff like this. So even though you don't kill that much, it's about the follow-up what's strong. I was very ahead after that because Protoss it's scared about stuff like this, so that's why.
Well, speaking of Protoss, you have another Protoss ahead of you, and it's Mana. And the head-to-head score, you're very, very favorable. You're up 6-1 or something like that. So feeling pretty confident, especially after taking down Harstem?
I take it match by match. He beat me in the most important match we ever played, so we play in the semifinals once, and he beat me, so it doesn't matter. Still, he beat me. So I will just take it by match, as I say.
I respect it. Congratulations once again. We'll look forward to your match later on. But for now, Claire, let's head back to the boys with you.
SpeCial getting himself the 3-0 victory there, like a Triceratops, butting him out of the way and moving on into the round of 16. Todd and Maynard joining me here to my left. 3-0, pretty handedly giving the defeat over there to Harstem as SpeCial now moves on.
Smeeks asked the right question. He definitely showed what he wanted to show. He got the 3-0, we got a little extra after, and
we did
convincing win here from SpeCial for sure here in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Like, the score is actually... you like to say things like the score wasn't indicative of the games, that it was like quite close, but it actually was pretty much Serral-oriented, not SpeCial-oriented. From
someone on your mind.
There. Sorry, I always have Serral on the mind.
Yeah.
And Harstem's a very worthy opponent as well.
Yeah,
like, this is a very important win for him, especially because he faces another Protoss next in Mana. Like, he showed how good he was in the matchup just now.
I would definitely be scared as Mana after watching these games to you know, the power of SpeCial here. But of course, I didn't even see that moment. What a good shot there from production. The second best shot I've seen in this tournament so far.
That's,
Where Harstem couldn't believe his eyes, and a lot of chat, of course. I couldn't either when those DTs got hit by the Widow Mine. Oh, man.
Yeah, and I mean, he just looks so convincing overall. Like, you expect out of somebody of the caliber of SpeCial to come in this tournament and be one of the favorites to make it, you know, to the semifinals, to the finals. He's really on point, and that series showed that once again here. Even though, I mean, he was in this match because he didn't finish first in his group. Otherwise, he already would have been in the next round. So maybe he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder here. He did mention to me that he thought that maybe Terran vs Zerg was going to be, you know, the harder matchup, and in his bracket, it's not necessarily too many Zergs. Like, he faced the Protoss first, now he has another one. Yeah. Maybe next he could be against Raynor, but I'm sure he's taking it match by match anyway.
Big storms.
Very good series by him.
You know, one thing I got to say about Harstem in the series, even though he did go down in some relatively one-sided games, is that he fought tooth and nail. Like, he tried to drag SpeCial down with him, especially on the last game on King's Cove, where he was just holding on by like the skin of his teeth. I couldn't believe how long he was surviving against the might of Terran there.
I mean, there was a lot of confidence from SpeCial, even when he was just boosting that medevac in. It was on about 1 health, and he's dropping units behind it. It's like, okay, this is going to do something whilst these fights are going on. So, kind of crazy decisions coming out from him, and they work out.
This makes me very confident that we're going to see SpeCial in the round of 8, which, you know, coming through Mana. Like, Mana obviously is incredible. He's a great aggressive Protoss, but we've seen how solid the early game of SpeCial is. Like, that's the only time where I get worried for SpeCial is, how's the early game like? Are these aggressive Protosses? How can he handle them? And we saw him handle Harstem's early strategies pretty well.
Todd, thoughts on this final moments?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said it all pretty much. Like, very, very impressed with SpeCial, and I don't know what to expect now out of his match versus Mana, other than, like, I'm a little bit worried for Mana, who obviously, it's an advantage for Mana to have been able to witness this whole series and kind of put himself in the shoes of Harstem. How would he have played it different? What adjustments can he make going into the series against SpeCial? But yeah, just very impressed here with our Mexican Terran in this one.
The GG EMP seals the deal. It's a bow on that one. Very nice 3-0.
Not
Clean
too bad.
stuff.
Yeah, especially, I mean, even some of the final moments of that game. Very, very one-sided, I feel, towards SpeCial. Showing his class after the blip that he kind of had when it came to, obviously, the group stage result that he had going up against Showtime. I'm excited to see how Showtime is going to fare, though, later on down the line here for the tournament as a whole. And, of course, whilst we have all of this series kind of wrapped up, as Maynard nicely said, let's take a look at our Tobii tracking moment here from the game and see how that actually played out as well. I think this was the moment where SpeCial was putting on pressure and then actually finding himself High Templar, but it looks a little bit earlier than that, so never mind, it's not that moment.
Yeah, I actually don't recall this particular moment. Like, what was the big moment here for the eye tracker? But, you know, SpeCial. You can see that when the engagements are happening, it's all about what's happening down here. A pro gamer is not worried about what's happening back home. Of course, they're not even looking at the minimap because he knows he's sealed the deal. He knows that there's not going to be any Protoss on his side of the map because of how well he's been trading at that third base.
And he doesn't need to go home to produce units. You just press the hotkey, queue extra units, and they're being rallied across the map.
So good indicator of what it looks like when the guy knows that all he needs to worry about is one thing right in front of him.
Yeah, not too bad at all. Which brings us nicely on to our next match, of course, which is going to be coming up. And we actually saved, I think, Hellraiser and Elazer as the next match that's going to be on the main stage. Of course, let's check in with the bracket as well, as SpeCial does confirm himself in the round of 16 going up against Mana. We have a few more results slowly filtering in. Obviously, some of the series may not have concluded just yet. Sort of bringing the fight to Gung Fu Panda. Nurture bringing the fight to Soul.
Yeah, Nurture's up 2-1. Actually, Soul won a very convincing game number 1, but apparently it ain't no thing for Archer. And kind of bringing it back in this one. And finally, we get something else than a PVT today.
That's
going.
Has it all been PVT?
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even realize. I was just kind of...
You were having so much fun.
I was whisking through life blissfully, you know, like watching the main stream, watching you guys on these screens as well.
It's a really heated rivalry, Terran and Protoss.
Yeah.
Like the players, you just take that out of it, just the races. They've hated each other for a very long time.
Till all the way back to the Cretaceous period, I would assume. Yeah.
Quietly, the Zerg sits in the corner. Quietly, the Zerg sits in the corner, patting their money bags from all the tournaments that they've won.
Let them fight.
Watching Terran and Protoss tear each other apart.
Fools are too busy hating on one another.
All right, boys, let's talk about Laser versus Hellraiser as well. I don't envy the people that are going to be commentating this game for the names alone and their close dynamic. But of course, Hellraiser, we just saw him in the first match of the day, and you could hear the Ukrainian crowd as well. Very much so, well, obviously on the side of him. And he gets another opportunity to prove his worth on the stage again. Against a Laser, though, that's a big opponent.
Yeah, and Hellraiser is one of the best stories so far for me in this tournament. One of the, I almost want to say surprises, because we knew he was really good, but he's really coming into form at the right time here and finally performing on the biggest of stage here on the WCS circuit. Now he gets a different matchup though than where he showed really good things previously, even though the one series against Serral we saw that he can play really great, and I think that's going to probably give him a lot of confidence here going up against somebody like Elazer, who's really good in the matchup himself.
He can make Serral bleed. Of course, Elazer and Serral pretty different in the sense that Serral's generally more comfortable to go in the mid game and play standard and take it on from there. Elazer's definitely one of those aggressive Zergs. You know, he likes to hit timing attacks. He likes to utilize, you know, Hydra attacks, Roach attacks, Nidus Worms, everything that the Zerg has in their Zerg early game utility toolkit for aggressive plays. Elazer loves to use. But we saw Hellraiser get pretty memey, especially in that last game in Acropolis against Serral. Dropped those double proxy barracks, put his Cyber Core right next to him, and just really brought that Cannon Rush hurt on. But of course, Serral ended up beating it back in the end. So this one could potentially be really weird. Like two aggressive players when they face each other could actually be really strange.
Well, we were theorizing even when like choosing kind of series, etc., to show as things were going on that Elazer could quite easily just bring the fight to Hellraiser and made this kind of a quick series, you know? What do you think?
Yeah, like it makes me curious who's going to make more adjustments.
Yeah.
If you know that somebody is going to be playing very aggressive, one of the best things you can do is just prepare some good defense, I guess, what they're going to do, but you can't be sure that they're going to be playing really aggressive. So in this case, it feels like, I don't know, it could go other way, but maybe Hellraiser should be the one making a little bit more adjustments to what Elazer's doing, because I feel like if he reacts properly, he's going to have the upper hand, but it could actually be the opposite. Maybe it's just Elazer who says, well, you know what, I'm just going to scout, see what you're up to, and then from there, I'll decide what I go into. Like, we've reached a weird phase in Protoss versus Zerg where it's considered that when we reach the very late game, Zerg is like doing really well or like greatly advantaged. But we don't really get to that point very often. Like a lot of the time, the game's decided in the early to mid game. And Elazer is also not necessarily the biggest late game player. So if you're Hellraiser here, maybe the best possible game plan is to kind of take things slow, do a little bit of harassment here and there, and then take it to the mid game where he can make something happen before they reach that very late game position.
Yeah, for Elazer, it used to be very heavy on the early game, and then the mid game was where we saw him truly thrive a year or two ago, of course. And as you can see in the chat, a lot of people do favor Elazer, one of the non-Koreans that has gone furthest in previous BlizzCon appearances.
I wish everyone in the crowd had a button to push to vote as well, because I think that the graph would look very different.
It would.
I mean, the home ground advantage cannot be denied. There's been some really great moments for a lot of like home ground players that are definitely underdogs. Like I remember Ayasonu in Shanghai 2017 going really deep against basically the best Koreans in the whole world. Mana winning in Krakow back in the day, like in the WCS finals.
2015.
Yeah, that's right. So
that was cool.
like a lot of great moments like that. And the world famous Alex 007 getting himself some fan photos out there in the crowd as well.
All right, gentlemen, well, it's time to go to a break now here for WCS Summer, and when we return, does the dream run here for Hellraiser end in his home country, or will a laser prevail? We're about to find out.